Welcome to the Watch Society. I'm Mark, and with me is Vincent, here in the capacity as the Horological Society of New York Traveling Education Director. Is that right?
Correct.
Okay.
Pick that up, right.
That's a good long title.
Yeah.
So it should start with what is the Horological Society of New York?
So it goes back quite a bit. Horological Society of New York was created back in 1866, mostly by watchmakers, which were immigrants to the United States, actually mostly German.
Just say the original title's in German, I think, of the...
That's right. Actually, the original, we have documents in the library that range back from then. Some of those documents were in German. Still are. They're not valid anymore, but they still are in German. Yeah.
That's fun because you think of old watchmaking and so much of it's in French. Because from France and from Swiss French, it's kind of funny that it's the German immigrants in the U.S. that started the oldest watch society. Or continuously running watch society, at least.
But Germany, actually, like France and England, were major places for watchmaking.
Yeah.
Back in those days. So, and Germany being in where they were.
The 1860s, that's actually one generation off of the Glashütte region starting.
I'll take your word for it.
I only remember because it was started by Adolf Lange, who was taught by one of the guys who learned from Breguet. So he was only the generations away, means that it was of when it was had to be early 1800s.
That's the question: how long were the generations back then?
Fair enough. Right. within 30-ish years of Glashütte being founded as a town for watchmaking by Adolf Lange, then, which is kind of the home of German watchmaking,
and definitely is now.
Yeah, still, it's started there, kept there, stayed there. So,
and that's it.
Yeah,
a watchmaker, we like our habits.
It's a beautiful town too. It's a nice little valley.
Never been.
Never been?
No, not yet.
It should be a nice little excursion.
I'll take the invitation if anybody has one to send.
There you go.
Yeah,
talk to friends. There's quite a few watchmakers there. And their own watchmaking schools there too.
Absolutely.
Which has, again, been there since that time.
Yeah. And a very typical style as well of watchmaking.
Yeah.
Absolutely right. Yeah.
So, the Horological Society in New York started in 1866.
Was founded then, yeah.
Continued on to today. I imagine the missions changed a little bit, but not too much over that time, as watchmaking's gone from a regular job to a luxury specialized field, because mechanical watches have gone from like the everyday item to a luxury item.
Yeah.
But that doesn't mean the history of it's changed or how you teach it has changed as much.
No, it's true. Watchmaking, essentially mechanical watchmaking for that part, is essentially the same. We improved it. We have better machines, but the teachings are fairly similar and continuous. So at the foundation, the Horological Society was really about the gathering of watchmakers get together, and grew to be actually extremely large because, mind you, American watch industry was the largest in the world. In the mid 80s, in 1800s, up
until the World Wars, basically. If I remember my history. World War II, I think, is when...
World War II, it was still there because we still needed our mechanical watches. It's been on a down spiral ever so slightly since the World War II, and eventually the last straw was the arrival of the quartz watch.
Now there's a few American brands that are making a comeback in the micro space. Shapiro, RGM, Weiss.
Love it.
There's a few out there that are looking to make parts in America.
Yeah.
Keep that going, but it's not just about American watchmaking. It's about watchmaking. I think in general, keeping all the information and the classes and all the knowledge alive. The passion alive.
I think all the watchmakers are here for sure take a little pride of bringing back American watchmaking here, but essentially also you're making watches in your own style and taste. And you just happen to be in the US, I think. We don't have to focus too much on that, I don't think so. At the end of the day, if we like watches, we come from the US, from Japan, from Switzerland. It's about liking it and how it's been done, and also liking the person behind it. I think it goes a long way with that, right?
Yes, absolutely. The personality behind a watch, especially in modern watchmaking, if somebody's starting a brand, I think is 90% of the initial curiosity towards something, getting to know what's the history behind this, what's the style behind, what's the passion behind this. I always think is an interesting point.
And the ethics also of watchmaking, how you like to make a watch, how do you think about it, how you go by, what did you select in your watch? I think there's a lot to be told about that, and nothing wrong with it. But I think today watch collectors love to know these things and get attached to it.
Yeah, absolutely. The story behind is half the reason for many of us, and that's it's part of the luxury. It's part of the art of watchmaking, because I think it is an art.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I like to say, you know what's more important than the watch on your wrist?
The story behind it?
The story of the watch on your wrist.
There you go.
There you go. You do want to have a good story that comes with it, for sure.
I think that's why we like to get together. When we watch people get together, it's like, oh, that's cool. It's like, yeah, but why it's cool to me is almost a better reason. I mean, even when I think that's something kind of gets lost when you start collecting a lot of watches, but there's always, even if you have a large collection, there's always that 2 or 3 that are the ones you always bring out and want to tell the story behind it. This is, you got married in it, or you discovered something with it, or it went with you as you did something. It's kind of a walking talisman.
Yeah,
it holds the story.
I guess this is the emotion that's attached to it, right?
Yeah.
And it could be the story because the person maybe gave it to you, perhaps how hard it was for you to get it, but clearly the one that you just purchased might be less, close to your heart than the one that you really worked out hard to get to. Maybe it took you years to get, finally put your hand on it.
The Grail watch you've been working towards for so long.
That's right. And of course, the watch that was given, to you, and the family watch.
The family watch. That's how I got started.
That's it.
Was the family watch.
How we almost got started. Could almost say, like, what's your family watch? What's your story about your family watch?
So with HSNY, you're doing the traveling watch classes, which has been going on since 2016.
Correct. Yeah.
What was the impetus, the reason behind wanting to do the traveling courses?
Yeah. So you have to backtrack. 1 year, actually.
Okay.
This is when we launched the classes in New York City. And we decided to have classes where we were staying. And whenever we launched the classes, we thought a few watch heads will come out and we'll have fun and work on the movement. And we had about 1,000 applications in a couple of weeks.
Wow.
So
I know there's a lot of watch nerds out there willing to travel.
That's a lot. I know New York is big, but still. So we hiked up the frequency of the classes, had more classes, but still after a few months and a year, people that wanted to actually get to the class, even willing to travel to New York to get the class, can't get a spot, And so eventually this is where I met with the Horological Society of New York, with Nick, and I had this idea of bringing those tools on the road for watchmaking classes. And this is where the whole thing came together, and I said, yeah, let's bring our classes on the road. And that was 2016.
And still going.
And still going to this day, yeah.
Well, I say we just came from watchmaking classes today here in Atlanta, which was the 2nd year in a row, and they were sold out.
Yeah.
Full up for 2 classes on a Saturday, class on a Sunday morning, plus a Watch 104 class on a Sunday afternoon.
The next level,
yeah. So and that's just 2 years in a row in Atlanta. Plus you're traveling what feels like week after week after week and all across the country.
It just feels like that, but no.
Well, I know he's been in Texas, you have Arizona coming up.
Yeah. No, we have to show up at home. sometime, you know?
Yeah.
so I don't know, but we're probably, I would say on average, we're out there once a month. And luckily we have a great team of instructors on the West Coast, in Canada, in New York, and also watchmakers that come also to help us teach. And so we're trying to spread our wings and go to all those places.
What's been the feedback from people who come to the watchmaking class?
First of all, they need to recapture the energy, right? Because there's a lot of information. It's also very demanding. Like you have to focus on the watch. Now you have to see that in our weekend class, we actually bring together the 3 classes in once that we give in New York. So our New York classes are 2-hour classes, 101, 102, 103. And when we bring on the road on the weekend, we put all that into a 4-hour package. So
concentrated. Welcome to the learning.
That's right. And if you're not used to it, we're pulling onto different nerving systems that you're not used to use. So it's very captivating. It's demanding, and usually the impression we get at the end of the class, first of all, is satisfaction to have completed it. Because when the heart of the watch starts ticking again, in that moment,
when you finally get the balance spring back in.
That's it. This is what you've been working for, and that never gets old. And you can be like a 90-year-old watchmaker and still that moment that, it's done right.
Working.
That's right. Maybe you're not jumping off the roof anymore, but you still have that.
It's the worst feeling has to be getting it back in and that not happening.
And that's it. And then you don't know what it is, right? So you can go back. But yeah, and I would guess that satisfaction and also the knowledge brought in, because nonetheless you understand a bit more what makes those watches tick, which goes back hundreds of years and still in our wristwatches today, mechanical. And to link it together, because we are very thorough in a way. Yeah, you work on the entire movement.
I enjoyed the history, actually, part of it today, let alone the theory of, we did the 104 class today, which is the escapement.
Yeah.
But the history part of it, I always find interesting too, going from the old water clocks through the different escape systems.
Yeah.
I always find that very interesting and could spend even more time on, but I think that's just for the extreme nerds of us.
Well, I guess when you get comfortable knowing a bit about the topics, I will say contemporary topics, and then you start digging in the past and start seeing that, hold on, this is not new. I'm just discovering myself. And then you start digging your own rabbit hole in that lane about history, and this is where it gets very interesting and actually even more meaningful in many ways, because today for us is a bit of a passion project. I mean, let's be honest, we like this stuff and we can nerd out about it, but your timekeeping is in your wristwatch is not critical to your day-to-day activities.
Not anymore.
So, but before we had all this electronic timekeeping that are extremely accurate, mechanical timekeeping was essential to anything you would be doing for science projects, for trains, and I mean, in some regards, it could be the difference between life and death, and so
even navigation required.
That's it. And actually a lot of improvement in horology came out of dramatic moments, major accidents, and pushed people to change and find different solutions. So, and when you start digging into that history and see the importance of it, as a matter of fact,
the importance of human society that revolves around accurate timekeeping. Modern society requires it. And that goes back a few hundred years, the start of that idea.
And if you like to nerd out there, I'll tell you, and things that I started discovering is that name a science today that doesn't need a base of time or doesn't use a base of time.
In fact, one of the Nobel Prizes last year was based on somebody being able to mark time down to the femtosecond.
There you go.
So it's actual accurate time measurement to an incredibly small time scale is worth a Nobel Prize still.
There you go. Because time is everywhere. Now we probably don't all need the phantom second to go by.
No, that's an incredibly small time scale.
Yeah, but maybe who knows? That's going to help position our planet against another system, and this is going to be new discoveries further out of space. Who knows? I'm just talking in the back of my head right here, but.
Hey, being able to measure time is talking about GPS and things like that. It's required on things like that. In fact, it has to be so accurate. It has to take into account general and special relativity. It's being nerdy here. Going beyond the
that's why
mechanical watch.
All the guys in Wall Street that move stocks in a microsecond they don't want to think about that offset of a milliseconds.
So, I just imagine what's all of these people coming out from across the country to just learn I assume almost everyone's for the first time they're getting hands-on a watch movement and actually being able to they're being taught how to take apart a basic watch movement and put it back together and how the gear train works. And I'm impressed that there's not many people that want to do it. And I love that. I love to see the passion behind it. Do you see people afterwards talk about maybe, wanting to be a watchmaker anytime or just having a more general appreciation?
Yeah. So, it's a great question because there's a bit of everything. And it's not an untold truth because I think all of us, we're all watchmakers teaching those classes. Most of us are watchmakers when the team. And we want to bring new fresh blood as well in here. There's not enough watchmakers today in the US to fix all our watches, right? And there are more watchmakers actually retiring every year than new ones coming in, right? But
that's why it takes so long to get your watch fixed when you send it in. There's just only so many people.
There you go. There's a wait list there too.
Yeah.
If we can actually bring somebody to decide to embrace going into and get a formal education in watchmaking school, to us, this is amazing. We do it for the general public. We do it for all of you guys that love watches and want to probably cross that off your list and to have worked on a watch and have a deeper understanding of mechanical watches and what it is, watchmaker that makes us go back to the bench every day or not. And every so often, yes, we do have people considering either a career change or just joining a watchmaking school. So we do have stories as such. Awesome. Yeah, we love it. And, we'll have anyone that wants to do that, we'll have them. They can reach out to us. We'll try to give you information to go and join a school, what it takes. And
I even have some scholarships at the Horological Society in New York.
Absolutely. Again, we're not a little proud of this, but being watchmakers, we know what it takes. It's very demanding. It's 2-year studies in the US. There are 5 watchmaking schools. And let's put it this way. You don't have time to go out there to pour coffee at Starbucks to pay for your rent after study hours, right?
From what I know, the watchmaking schools are generally tuition free, but they expect you to be full time.
Correct.
So you don't have a way, you're not going to have time to supplement your income really.
No. So even if you go after studying hours and do pour some drinks out there to get some money to go by, you're going to get next morning right at the bench and you're going to be wiped out because it's draining. Like you need to be fresh. You need to be, and the train is not stopping. You learn one thing one day and the next day and the other thing.
And it is exceeding the concentration required to work on a watch day in, day out.
Yeah.
I think is underappreciated, the personality it needs to do that. And the level of concentration is unusual, I will say. And it's always fun to talk with watchmakers because they always have a very even tone to them. They're very, everyone I've ever known is just very calm, relaxed. And
we work a steady frequency.
Exactly. It's almost a universal characteristic of just like, yeah, I can deal with this.
Absolutely. For sure. For sure. I mean, like everything else, you get trained to it, but it's so pushed to a different place than the skills and the concentration you use on day to day. That's something that needs time to learn and get trained into. Right. So very happy that every year we've been able to offer more scholarships to deserving watchmaking students. And so last year we were able to dispatch $150,000 awesome. To students and also watchmaking schools to help them give the right tools, the right conditions to the students. So a lot of any profits we can make from our classes will go towards that, and also our sponsors that donate to the society. A lot of it will come down to help. And
there's a lot of great watch brands that are our sponsors, let alone watch media and watch retailers. Yeah. So it's.
I'm actually very happy to give you a slide you can put in the background here.
Oh, absolutely. I respect everybody who's involved in that, because that's getting back to the watch community and the watchmakers and the watch world. I think it's interesting how small the watch world is of people who professionally work in it, and there's a lot of people who work to continue it to grow and help each other. And a place like HSNY is an example of that, where brands and ADs and watch media get back to it to try and feed the beast, basically, of get more people educated and want to be part of it. And it's a great cycle of giving back.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's a win-win as well. I think it's more as purchasers of watches know. They also know more about the brand, about the watches, and they appreciate more the actual work that goes in it. I mean, not so long ago, a lot of people buy watches just because they had a cool name on it and not so cool price tag. And it's okay, you can buy your watch just on those bases. But I think it doesn't help the industry at large or watches and brands if your customer is not really involved further than just buying your name, right? If he knows a bit the effort you put into making your watch, then you start talking about more of an emotional and cultural purchase, educated purchase, than just...
I have a feeling that the watch consumer, especially those beyond, to be honest, Rolex, Cartier, the biggest names that are known to the general public who have no idea about watches. But any watch brand beyond that, their customer is probably one of the most educated customers of any product out there, that care so much about the details compared to any other luxury product. Like I don't think there's anyone out there that's as educated consumer as a watch, as someone who's really in the watches than someone who's really in the jewelry or purses or other luxury goods. It's such an interesting.
I hear things go far right now. All the different items. I cannot speak for all of them because I chose my tunnel. But yeah, I mean, what horology and watchmaking has for itself is that it's actually very old. It goes back to before it was actually being a luxury item. The watch was a necessity. Yeah. And before it was a necessity, I mean, it was, I would say, a necessity since day one, but before. So you can trace back horology so far out.
I like to say that there are generally three reasons people collect watches, and it's a Venn diagram that it overlaps, but it's an appreciation for the history. It's an appreciation for the engineering behind it, or it's an appreciation for the art. And the art can be, and all of that can intertwine with each other. And then there's that side reason we don't talk about, which is status, which is its own and doesn't necessarily, that's its own bubble, which can obviously exist within the space.
It definitely has existed.
Even if that is your reason, there's usually the art, the history, the mechanics that matter to you. There's one of those that, and I always find it interesting because all three of those are nearly limitless wells that you can go down. That. How deep do you want to go down that road? Will take an entire lifetime to learn.
That's right.
I think that's the most interesting. If you get into watches, you'll never stop learning.
Yeah, there's no bottom to it. You know, you're gonna find something new. You're gonna find a new book, a new read. Somebody that's gonna show you a watch they have no idea existed, and suddenly, boom, there's a new light coming in. So, oh, I like that stuff, and then you go back online, and then you start searching, and then you start deviating into something else, and this is it. Now you already burned 2 weeks.
It's often why the watch you bought 10 years ago isn't the same watch you love now sometimes, or what you would have bought now. You may still love it, but it's different than your taste now because things change
and you evolve. And I think this is the beauty of those gatherings that you guys have, and also we see that in our classes. We have different minds coming in, and everyone loves their watches for different reasons and can share on that. You can explore different routes, and personally I learn from all you guys, right? Every time I say, why did you like this watch and why did you look into it, and you tell me, and I say, all right, I didn't know that existed, and then I pinch my curiosity, and then I go back to internet or to the books. And
right? I was going to say, even today's class had a wide range between Grand Seiko and Resonance, and
we got a very sweet Resonance,
and Brad's watch, which was Sylvan. I'm gonna butcher the name.
Yeah.
I'll let you try.
Actually, I need to read it again.
Right.
Later on, I think.
Yeah. I'll send David the image.
Cut that.
Send David the image of the watch and put that up. Or even a Formex, who are some great guys. We actually did a club watch with. So the wide range of watches is interesting on how they even work, because there's between a Resonance and a Grand Seiko spring drive and a Formex, the Swiss lever. Those are very different watches on how they even tell time or escapements, and so it's a big nerd gathering.
That's the beauty. That's the beauty of it, and I think that's the result of all their digging into their own rabbit holes, and it's like they bring it back to the mothership, and then we can all enjoy it, right?
Oh, I love it. So, is there a future deeper classes possibly with HSNY? Because I know it's hard to. We were kind of talking. It's hard to travel with education beyond that, because it gets really theory based and it gets like in the weeds a little bit, so that's right, not as easy to travel with.
So of course our aim is to bring more education, as much as interest there is. We're trying to bring this. Our goal is not to make watchmakers, but again, since what we talked about is the more everybody appreciate the work and the mind of watchmaking or watchmakers, the more they will appreciate their watches even more, and serves the industry and everybody, I guess. So here really we're trying to bring it to the next level. So the weekend class we have is about the movement, Horology 101, 102, 103, where we disassemble an entire movement and put it back together, explore the gear train, the winding mechanism, the time setting mechanism, try to understand how it works, the mechanics, kinetics of it, but also make it work, put it back together and test it. And then the class you took this afternoon is the sequel of this, Horology 104, where we start exploring the finer details of watchmaking and the escapement in this case. We discover how it works, all the profiles, the kinetics of it, and also even try your hand on dropping a point of lubricant onto the pallet.
Which is incredibly difficult the first time you do that.
That's right.
I did okay.
Yeah.
That's as far as I'll say.
You did all right. I mean, obviously, we're not expecting anybody to make it right. It's just
I felt overconfident up to that point, I will say. I felt like I've taken a movement apart. I'm okay. Then you're like, put this drop of oil there. It's like,
That's right. Because, you have to go through the main plate and feel at what height you are. And you have to touch that pellet fork and come back in, and that drop of lubricant
getting the light in there
perfect.
Too was.
That's right. And watchmakers, when we work on this, and this is the moment in the lubrication that okay, take a stop, you know, gotta make this right.
Go grab some coffee, come back.
Because you know that this is you have that one shot, and if you don't make it right, you have to go a couple of steps back, right?
Over oil it, time to take things apart, clean it up.
That's right. And that's the one that's very easy to mess up because you don't really know exactly where you are in your depth. So here, this is the trainings, the knowing, controlling your movements that will help you to look at yourself in space and help do that. There's no 5 ways to do it. All right, training. You practice it, and then you get good at it. So in your case, and everybody else's case in the class, it was not about making it right. It's about facing the challenge.
An appreciation for what goes into it, why you have to go to school day in, day out for a couple of years to be able to actually go somewhere and professionally service a movement and fix a watch. It's not something you can pick up in a weekend.
No.
Or a month.
You can do your own watches and keep it in your garage if you want.
If you want to break your own watch,
by all means, you can do it, but don't fix your friend's watch. Don't go out there offering that service.
If you want to go to Goodwill and pick up a bag of old inexpensive cheap watches and further break them, that's up to you. But yeah.
But as we say, if you're serious about becoming a watchmaker, as we say, it's easier to teach a young monkey than an old monkey, right? For the reason the old monkey has taken bad habits.
That's fair.
So it's easier to develop the right habits right away than to, recorrect bad habits and make them right.
Perfect.
So, yeah.
All right. Well, I thank you, Vincent, for stopping by.
Thanks, Mark.
Appreciate the
pleasure
chat.
to be in Atlanta with you guys, as always.
I hope you come back again next year because I think we still have lots of people who want to take the class, and we have a growing group here. We barely scratch the surface of the amount of people in the group that are